everybody. It is Friday. Congratulations. We have made it to the end of the week. It is November 20th of our year 2020. And I want to welcome you to closing out the week with the Closers Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Mark Alvarado. And I'm recording this on Friday, actually. Sipping a nice cup of coffee, some lukewarm coffee this morning. About to talk about some news headlines from this past week that have been pretty comical, honestly. Some pretty funny shit has happened this week. But before we get to that, I do want to ask you how your week has been. Has it been good? So-so? Just plain shit? How has it been? Mine has been up and down. In the beginning of the week, it was busy. I had a lot of schoolwork to do. And so that kind of took up most of my time. But once all of that cleared up, I haven't really had a whole lot to do. So it's been a little bit of a struggle trying to figure out, how to keep myself occupied while still being productive, right? While still taking steps towards, working on music, working on the show, working with my internship. Just trying to see how I can do other things and, progress overall. If your week has been good, I hope that continues. If it's been bad, there's always next week. And next week is actually Thanksgiving, which brings us to an announcement. There is going to be a show on Friday next week. There is a show, but I'm going to record it that day, just like I'm doing it today. So nothing's really going to change. But I just want to let you know there is going to be a show. No breaks for ya boy. So let's get to the first story today. And that is Rudy Giuliani and the Trump legal team had a press conference yesterday morning where they, quote unquote, laid out a case for widespread voter fraud in this past election that was geared against Trump. Now let's look at exactly what was said. They talked for like 90 minutes. And at the end of that 90 minutes, Jenna Ellis, who's the legal advisor for the campaign, said the group was just laying out an introductory statement and they had more to come. And she called the team an elite strike force. Also working for the campaign, attorney Sidney Powell made extreme baseless claims about communist Venezuela and George Soros supposedly interfering in the U.S. election, and Giuliani on multiple occasions made allegations citing individuals he said couldn't be revealed for their own safety and well-being. So, let's see. There's a bunch of falsehoods that were said in this press conference, and there's just funny imagery. There's a picture that you probably have seen that has gone viral around the internet of Rudy Giuliani looking quite confused, looking down, and he has he has sweat just pouring down his face, and you just see a line of fucking hair dye infused sweat just running down his face. It baffles me how old people can't just be okay with being old. Like, dude, it's okay that you have white hair. We get it. You're an old fuck. Like, of course you're going to have white hair. It's all right. Like, don't embarrass yourself, man. Jeez, you already are Rudy Giuliani. Like, you embarrass yourself enough by just existing. Like, why do you have to try to, like, salvage the rice grain of what's left of your youth? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Anyways, sorry. So there's a lot of falsehoods, like I said, that was made in this press conference. So let's just go through some of the biggest ones. So I'm going to quote things and then talk about how it's false. Let's do that. That sounds fun. So the first thing is that Giuliani said the Trump campaign withdrew one case in Michigan because its goal was to get the Wayne County board to decertify, and they did. Now, this is false, okay? The county's results were certified on Tuesday night. Boom. 2 Republican members of the board initially deadlocked a vote, but then reversed their decision and voted to certify Tuesday night. They have since sent affidavits to rescind their vote, but have not filed any lawsuits to try to force the county to call a new meeting. Since the deadline is passed, the certification still stands. All right, boom, that's false. Another falsehood. Overvotes in Michigan. So, quote, one of the reasons why the Republicans did not certify in Wayne County, Michigan, was because the overvote was so high, Giuliani claimed. He added, what I am describing to you is a massive fraud. Now, this is false. Who would have thought? What Giuliani called an overvote is often referred to as an imbalance, where the number of ballots tabulated does not equal the number of people signed in to vote at a specific polling location. Past elections in Michigan with larger imbalances have been certified without issue, including 2016, when Trump won the state. And this is according to the Michigan Secretary of State. All right, perfect. Now, poll watchers. This is one of my favorite claims. So, Giuliani claimed that more than 600,000 ballots in Pennsylvania, quote, weren't inspected, which renders them ballots that are null and void. That's a direct quote. That's kind of weird wording, but anyways, this is still false. Nothing is illegitimate about those ballots. So a Pennsylvania Supreme Court justice decided that the Philadelphia County Board of Elections complied with the law in how it allowed observers access to the canvassing process. The law allows the observers to be present, the judge wrote, but they do not have the right to inspect or look over the shoulders of the workers counting the ballots. The judge ruled canvass watchers in Philadelphia cannot change ballots and don't need to inspect each individual signature. There you go. That is verifiable, court-mandated, court-ruled evidence. Cool. So Rudy Giuliani lied again. Now let's see other ways he lied. Mail-in ballots. Giuliani falsely claimed that mail-in ballots are, quote, prone to fraud. So, election experts have told CNN and time again that mail-in ballots are safe and are not subject to widespread fraud. Okay, perfect. All right, well, there you go. That's just not even close to being correct. Like, it's just factually not. So, let's see. This is my favorite claim. So this one wasn't made by Rudy Giuliani. This was made by Powell. I forgot her first name. Doesn't matter. But Powell claimed that widely used voting machines from the election technology company Dominion Voting Systems featured software created at the direction of former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez to swing his own election results, and that the company has ties to the Clinton Foundation and Soros. So facts first. None of this is true. Dominion has no corporate ties with Venezuela, the Clinton Foundation, or Soros. So Powell and other Trump allies have tried to tie Dominion, which sells election technology that was used in more than 24 states, to another voting company called Smartmatic. During the 2020 election, Smartmatic's technology was used only in the LA County and not in any swing states. So Smartmatic was founded in Florida by two Venezuelans and did provide election technology to the Venezuelan government. Powell has posted on social media a purported affidavit from an unnamed Venezuelan official claiming Smartmatic software was used to change votes in the country, but those claims have zero evidence. There's no reason to believe that the company's software was created to make sure Chavez never lost an election. Which is what Powell claimed. The company actually spoke out to accuse the Venezuelan government of voter fraud in 2017. The bigger issue with this claim is that there's no evidence that Dominion machines use Smartmatic software, as Powell suggested, and thus zero connection between Venezuela and the company whose voting machines were actually used in swing states Trump is focusing on. Both Dominion and Smartmatic have said they are competitors with zero corporate links. The origin of this claim linking the companies seems to be a convoluted corporate transfer. In 2005, a year that I barely talk about, which is why it was hard for me to say, Smartmatic acquired a company called Sequoia Voting Systems, but sold it in 2007 after questions from members of Congress over the acquisition by a company linked to Venezuela. 3 years later, Dominion, which was founded as a Canadian company but is now majority owned by Americans, acquired Sequoia. In addition, Smartmatic licensed Dominion machines for the use in the Philippines in 2009, but the contract ended in a lawsuit, Dominion said in a statement, which you could read online. Neither Dominion nor Smartmatic have corporate ties to the Clintons or Soros, a major Democratic donor. While Dominion did agree to donate its technology to emerging democracies as part of a program run by the Clinton Foundation in 2014, according to the foundation's website, Dominion said in its statement that it has no company ownership relationships with the foundation. Yeah, like this is just ridiculous to think that Venezuela and Hugo Chavez, who I believe is dead, through this random that's like saying lumping McDonald's and Burger King together. Like, oh, I got food poisoning at a McDonald's one time, so like all fast food places, every location is just not like, I can't eat anything. I can't eat any fast food now because it's just all this, it doesn't make any sense. They're direct competitors. They don't have ties to each other in that way. They're not going to be in cahoots like that. Like, there's zero evidence for any of this stuff. But what's crazy to me, the craziest thing, that's all we're going to talk about actual claims. But what's crazy to me is how, like, people genuinely are going to believe this. Like 100%. Like there's people who without a question believe everything Rudy Giuliani and the Trump legal team said in yesterday's press conference, and they believe it's true just because it's Rudy Giuliani and that's one of Trump's guys and I'm a Trump fan. Therefore, I'm going to listen to every word this person says and I'm going to believe everything. Dude, it's like, if you just look, a quick Google search debunks everything that this fucker's saying. But at the end of the day, none of that matters to some people. And that's kind of scary. I find that to be a little scary that, like, facts don't necessarily matter to some people anymore. And no matter what, it's dependent on the subject matter of those facts or the people involved. That's what's going to get them to believe it. So imagine if this was reversed. If Trump won, and it was clear as day that Trump won the election, they would not be claiming there was voter fraud. They would not be up in arms. They would say this was a great election, the best election run in the history of all elections, right? That's what they would fucking say. But because their boy lost, we have to make a big ruckus. And of course, I'm not saying that it's only Republicans, but they are the most egregious offenders in this regard at this moment. So therefore, I'm going to attack them on it. And look, what's also scary is the thought that you can believe anything you want when you have it in your mind that the mainstream media is just complete dog shit. Like, I'm not saying that the mainstream media is like ever wrong or that there aren't things wrong with it, but there are indisputable, verifiable things that the mainstream media says. There's laws and regulations that guide what they can say, how they can say it, what the standard of claims have to be in order to be run on mainstream media outlet like websites and like TV channels and stuff like that. They can't just go up there and start spouting all this type of bullshit because that's factually incorrect, and their credibility would go, drastically down. And also there would be federal investigations, and there would be people getting fired. There's just a lot of things surrounding the legitimacy of the news and the information that is provided by the mainstream media. Now, there are ways to kind of bend things, right? I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the mainstream media, but generally speaking, there are standards. Now, there's people on far-right media outlets online. Because it's online, they don't have to follow the same sort of rules and regulations that CNN or Fox News or MSNBC has to follow. And because of that, they can say whatever the fuck they want. Look at Alex Jones, for instance. Alex Jones has been kicked off of every single website at this point, but he still has a very, very core following of people who listen to every word, and some people just listen to him ironically. Other people really do believe everything this fucker's saying, and none of it is true. None of it is fucking true, but yet he still has a following. When people reject objectivity in favor of their subjective reality, there's absolutely nothing you can do. There's nothing that we can do to get through to these people unless the people that they have hung their hat upon, in this case Trump, because I'm talking about the people who are within the Trump cult. Basically, at this point, you can really call them a cult. Those people have to get hurt by Trump so badly that the spell just breaks, and they wake up, and their Trump goggles just dissolve, and they're just like, okay, I see things a little differently now. I was pretty crazy. Now, I'm not saying that will happen. It might take something very drastic, but that is kind of the only thing that can kind of get these people out of their own heads and look at things objectively again. I already know that this press conference by Rudy Giuliani didn't help the fact, or not help the fact, but that didn't help any possibility of the Trump coalition base kind of coming to their senses a bit and seeing things a little bit more rationally. I don't see that happening, but I mean, we'll see what happens in the future. There's still about 2 months, a month and a half left. No, about 2 months. 2 months to the day. Wow. Yeah, in 2 months to the day, Joe Biden will be inaugurated. Pretty crazy. But there's a lot of time left, and we'll see exactly what Trump and his team keep trying to do in order to get 100 votes flipped in favor of Trump. Because at the end of the day, that's what all of these lawsuits, best case scenario, really is going to do for them. So it's all just a show. It's all just theater. But anyways, no theme of the week this week. I just honestly cannot really think of one. Quinn and I are going to have some announcements soon about what's happening in the future of the show and stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. And as always, follow us on Instagram at The Closers Podcast, on Facebook at Closers Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are The Closers Podcast. Next week, we're going to have one of our fan favorite guests back on. But who is that going to be? You're going to have to stay tuned. We just did an episode with two of Quinn's best friends from Hoptown, so you can check that out in our RSS feed. Listen to that show. It was really funny, really, really fun time, and you'll enjoy it a lot if you enjoyed this episode. So yeah, have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next week.